A couple of months later, the order of Herod's census was issued. The timing was very bad. The counts were to be taken in the lineage towns by the turn of the Roman year. No one traveled then unless you had to in winter. A census was not a common event. Joseph and Mary had to go to Bethlehem, which was the seat of the house of David. Bethlehem was about 6 miles southeast of Jerusalem, and the distance to Nazareth was much further away, 60 or 70 miles as the crow flies. The roads were not in good shape, and due to the winter rains, they would be even worse. Unlike Roman roads, they always did not run in a straight line. Mary was pregnant and in the early 6th month. The trip to Bethlehem was much more arduous than she was so far along. It was nothing like the smooth travel of the previous summer, when she had wanted to see for herself the pregnancy of Elizabeth. It had been good June weather and clear and dry. She was a bouncy teenager then, and though concerned about her call to mother a special child, the travel was very easy in comparison to this. There was no time to arrange a place to stay on such short notice. Everyone had sons and daughters to put up. First cousins, aunts, uncles had the first choice. Only then the more distant relations had a chance to ask for a place to stay. Joseph was an orphan, having waited to start his family. They stretched many distant relatives' patience on their arrival to Bethlehem. Having run out of closer relatives, Mary suggested that they try Elizabeth's home. That turned out to be the perfect solution. It was the last option for the couple, but it was Providence that sent them there. Elizabeth was feeling a little left out of the mayhem of the census. Both of them had outlived their relatives like Joseph. Except for John, they had no children. John was a little young to bring a family of his own into the world at 6 months old. Zechariah was not on his annual call to seasonal duty as a minor support priest. They were both overjoyed to take in the bedraggled, frazzled couple. Though the space was not huge, it was homey of feel and welcome that Mary needed. Some warmed wine with honey was pressed into her trembling hands when she arrived. Many hugs and kisses later, everyone settled in to talking the night away. The week later, the census taker showed up. That done, Mary and Joseph prepared to leave, not wanting to impose. Elizabeth scolded and cajoled the couple to stay. What was Joseph thinking, dragging Mary back out into the bad winter weather? Mary wanted to stay near Elizabeth and watch her with John. Mary was the youngest of her parents' children, and as a result, she had not really ever cared for an infant. Mary told Joseph, "I could get some good tips from Elizabeth. I'm really not feeling great either. Didn't you bring your tools with you, Joseph?" When mention of the tools came up, Zechariah chimed in that he had plenty of repair work in their home. Zechariah knew that people had avoided Elizabeth when she gave birth so late in life. There were rumors that something strange was involved. No one had the nerve to openly say anything, but it still isolated her. There was such a joy on Elizabeth's face at her young relative's visit, he hated to see the visit end. It was hard for a woman with a support system of Elizabeth's age to care for a newborn. She had finally gotten some sleep after Mary and Joseph arrived. Joseph smiled and gave in to Mary's persuasion. He enjoyed the company as well. He had brought his tools because he did not know how long the census would take. Unlike the Roman obsession with doing things on schedule, Herod was not even a born Jew. Who knew when he would get around to getting the census completed? They settled in for a comfortable winter together. Work came in for Joseph. Mary grew bigger every day. John was learning to crawl everywhere, and in the 3rd Roman month of March, in the middle of the midpoint, Mary delivered her babies. First came Jesus, calm as an ancient soul that saw this as a continuing journey. Then came Judas, who did the normal yelling and screaming. Both were healthy and sweet. John was curious about both of them. The delivery went smoothly, with Elizabeth helping Mary. When both infants were put to Mary's breast, they suckled vigorously. Having only expected a single child, Joseph had only built a small, compact crib. Elizabeth, being practical, just scooted the donkey aside and placed both babies in the embrace of the soft fodder of the hay. Taking the crib rejection in stride, Joseph sold it to make some money instead. The manger was very roomy, and it held both children easily. It continued to shelter the boy's bed until they were to leave for Bethlehem. The babies grew. Jesus was alert to every movement and watched John crawling everywhere. John often came to the babies and patted Jesus on the cheek, smiling. They often just sat smiling at each other. Jesus was much different in his interactions with John. They roughhoused and played more. Jesus caught a cold or two with John, but Jesus never got sick. They all played with the animals around and in the house. One day Jesus did the first shoving of his life. Judas was trying to pull the tail off of a newborn animal. Jesus shoved him away from the baby animal. He petted the baby animal until it calmed. No one remarked on the kindness, thinking it was just a desire to pet the baby animal instead of Judas. Judas never pulled another tail, though. About a year and 9 months later, the Magi arrived. The town of Bethlehem had been identified by both their